Welcome everyone to this episode of the Stronger Program series presented by Rogers Athletic. My name is Pat Cohan and our guest for today's show is Brent Cummings, the head football coach at Rockford High School in Rockford, Michigan. In our conversation, we're going to discuss how to develop an in-school year-round training program for all your athletes. The secret sauce to getting student buy-in, staff buy-in, and school buy-in, and then being able to create a program that'll help all your athletes, no matter the sport, peak at the right time, and then designing a weight room that maximizes the productivity and the ability to host so many athletes in one place. Before we dive into these topics, we do want to thank our sponsor for helping us put on this series, Rogers Athletic, the premier provider of football practice and pendulum strength training equipment. In this Rogers Stronger Program series, we're talking to athletic directors, coaches, and trainers to help high schools build stronger athletic departments through improved structure, process, and better care for their athletes. To learn more about Rogers Athletic, please visit go.rogersathletic.com/insider. Brent, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Pat. Really appreciate the opportunity.
A little bit more about Brent. He played football at the University of Michigan. He has a master's degree in coaching sport performance with an emphasis on strength and conditioning. He's worked at Rockford High School since 2004 as the assistant football coach, track coach, and strength and conditioning coordinator throughout his time there. And then he became the head coach in January of 2020. And so far in the last two seasons, his teams have gone 19-2. All right, so Brent, our conversation is going to surround around this concept of being able to train with your athletes year round. You know, different states have different rules on how to be able to do this and if you can or cannot. But for the context of the conversation, what is your schedule for training with your football athletes throughout the year?
Yeah, so specific to our football kids, I'm fortunate to get them every single day throughout the school year. So that's 5 days a week. All 180 school days, I get to be with them. I get to see them, get to train, push them, train them. And then again, when we get to summer, same deal. I still get to see them for 5 days a week throughout the summer. That part turns into more voluntary, but that deal to have them throughout the school year, every single day is a major player for our program.
So does that mean you're getting up early, like starting, super early in the morning before school or after school? How does that work?
Yeah, our kids get to register for advanced strength and conditioning. Our football players get to do this, and they can take it year round. And so what that means is intermixed with their normal regular student schedule. So they can come in 0 hour, first hour, second hour, third, fourth, or fifth, whatever fits best for them. And it allows them to get a break in the day and come down and train in the athletic wing.
It's also nice for the coaches, so they don't have to get up early every session. But how does this work with your state association's rules?
Right. As long as it's during the school day and it's, what we're doing during the school day is strength and conditioning and speed, agility. Those things fit very well within, what the MHSAA allows us to do.
So is it only football players can be in this class, or is it anybody can be involved in it? I'm a little kind of gray on how this actually works.
Right. That's the key is all of our athletes are allowed to take advanced strength and conditioning. We have some general student population there as well, but it's important for, the support of our strength program that all of our athletes get a chance to be in there. And, that's critical for, trust in our administration, knowing that we're reaching out to all of our kids. It's critical for the support from our district's head coaches that they know that their athletes get the same opportunities as our football kids do. And that's grown. I think at first it, started where there were more football kids within the class, but then it was a snowball effect. We started to get more and more kids excited about it, more and more kids excited about it. And then now all of a sudden you get our counseling staff, our principal, excited about it. Okay, now the ball is really rolling.
How long did that take? I mean, as I'm thinking here, it's like, well, why doesn't everybody do this, right? It's like, all right, let's set up a PE class. It'll be football training, and we'll get to work with our athletes 180 days a year. And then we'll do summer training, and then they're going to be, fully prepped for the season. We're going to have a big advantage on everybody else in our district. Like, it's just a no-brainer, right?
Yeah, when I started in 2010, I was fortunate to have two lifting classes, and it was most, not all the football kids, because I only had two sections, and for some of those kids, that hour wasn't going to fit within their schedule. And so I knew that, for that part of it, for specific to football, this was even before I was the head coach, but I was still on the staff, that we wanted to give a chance for all these players to take it. And there were many, many steps that, and it was a long process to get it rolling.
How many total athletes are being served in these programs total?
Right. In each class, we have 48 student athletes are in the advanced strength and conditioning class. And that's a variety of different kids now. So at first, like I said, we had, the interest of our football kids, but it has grown tremendously. Now we have football kids, basketball kids, we have our lacrosse kids, we have, our wrestling program is big into it, girls soccer. And, it's just, I could go down the line of these head coaches and these student athletes that really, I guess, take pride in being a part of we call our advanced strength and conditioning program.
Yeah, and it sounds like we got a class going on right behind you, but is that actually the advanced class right now?
So right now what we have is our female weight training class. They're rocking and rolling in the background.
Okay, so you're doing that specific, just females only on that one. Why is that?
Yeah, that was something that we talked about as a PE staff, and we knew, we kind of heard through the grapevine from students, from females that, why are they not coming down to join our lifting classes? Because we have, kind of go backwards, we have in the weight, and we have advanced strength and conditioning, we have weight training, which is for our general student population, we have female weight training. But before we had female weight training, we had a decent amount, but we knew that we could do better. And, so you ask girls, well, it's intimidating to come down there. It's, we didn't want to train, with the boys for a variety of different reasons. And so it was kind of neat to have those conversations. So, well, why don't we try a female only class? And so we started out with one, and we had, maybe 30 some girls that, a part of it. Then the next year it grows, just like our other programs did. And so that started, I want to say it was 2015. And now in 2022, we have two full classes of 48 girls. And now we just heard word for next year, it had bumped up to 4. So now we're thinking, how the heck are we going to fit all these, students and then the girls in the weight room. So we have quite the juggling act.
Now, I mean, I brought it up kind of off the cuff there, but this kind of alludes to this secret sauce in terms of how this all works, right? Like, that is so awesome that you're being able to provide this opportunity for female athletes and have it grow and engagement and have them want to be there. But again, that's helping you build equity with your principal and superintendent to be able to train with your football athletes all year long. Like, I think you don't have one without the other, it sounds
Correct.
like.
Yep. Our secret sauce is exactly that. We knew that within our school, we had to get our heads together as a PE department and really go after, we wanted to go after every single kid in the school. How can we do that? And I feel like we have the majority, tied into our program somehow.
Well, actually, give me numbers. So how many kids are in your school, and then how many are involved with PE? Because I know across the country, PE numbers are just plummeting right now.
Right. Yeah. So we have 2,600 kids in our school. We have, in every single hour, we have at least 2 classes going on. So you go first through fifth. There's 500 kids, but it's more than that, because we're fortunate to have a pretty big staff. And so, there's times we'll have 2 lifting classes going at the same time. We have a sports and fitness class going on. We have aquatics going on, and we have kickboxing up top. And then there's yoga in the aux gym, all going on at the same time. And so the numbers wise, I wanted to say the principal mentioned that we were up over 80%, of kids that are tied into our PE program at one time.
That's massive, especially when you get into needing new remodelings on your facility, which we're going to check out here in a little bit and hear how you designed your beautiful weightlifting facility or your beautiful training facility. But before we go into that, I want to get back to this advanced strength and conditioning part for the athletes, because when you're dealing with multi-sport athletes, how do you program for that? How do you build effective training when they're all in different seasons at different times?
Right. And so we are on trimester schedules. We have a first, second, third trimester throughout the school year. And I think that just falls into our favor, very, very good. And that is a big component of gaining trust of the student athletes and the coaches. So we have and during the first trimester, that is our fall sports season. And when that's done, we go to our second trimester, which is our winter sports season. And then we go to third trimester, which is right now, which is our spring sports. So I can break it down. This is where it was a big deal for gaining the trust of the coaches is we can get our kids feeling good and performing well within their sports season. And we have something for everyone. They all train together. They go through the same cycle throughout the trimester, and they repeat it over and over and over again. So this is how it works take the first trimester, for example. We're in the fall season, and during the first few weeks, we are going into a hypertrophy phase. And we all know that as strength coaches, that's when, the body's hurting, you're sore, you're going through sets to failure, and kids are training hard. And, they're going into some of their practices, some of their tryouts, a little bit fatigued. But the coaches know that, they know what to expect. And the kids know that too. I tell them, I said, listen, right now for a few weeks here through week 4, your body's going to be sore. But guess what? You're going to get acclimated to it. And once you settle into your season, we're going to move on to the strength phase. And that's when kids are getting into a solid routine with their competitions, with their practices. They know more how their body's going to feel. They're experiencing strength gains as they go through that strength phase. And they're, now, okay, they're getting excited. They're pushing more weight. They're finding improvements in the vertical, whatever it is that we're going to test at the end.
And before you go any further, so everybody is following this schedule. So if I'm a baseball player, my season's right now, I'm still following this schedule, March, April, May, June.
Correct. Yeah, you're into it, and
I'm not missing anything because it's in the school day.
Right. It's in the school day. These kids don't have to worry about practice, getting their strength before school or after practice when they're dead dog tired. They get to do this programming during the school day.
It's a college model. This is exactly what, University of Michigan baseball is doing, right? If we're talking about that, right? They're training during the day, and they have lifts every day, even in season.
Yep.
And then they're going off to practice or playing games and stuff. But they do travel, and there is that, that pitcher that that just threw 100 pitches. Like, how do you communicate with the coaches, or do they communicate with you, kind of letting hey, let's there's the situation, let's work on it?
Yeah, that's part of gaining the trust from the coaches. We have to have that open dialogue. Okay, how are your athletes feeling? I'll reach out to them. Hey, how are your kids doing? How are their legs feeling? How's your pitchers? How's their velocity? Really have to, and it's genuine. I really care for these kids and what they're accomplishing on the field, on the court. And so it's emails back and forth. I might be seeing a coach in the hallway and just making sure that I'm really have a heart for how they're performing. And so if we need to make an adjustment, it's a heavy bench period for, and we're our baseball pitcher, and they want to feel great, during the strength phase. Maybe we modify it just a touch, and we go to a dumbbell press or a hammer grip type of a press, and we limit some of the overhead deals. And we can do that for these kids, but they can still follow, the majority of the programming, and they still work hard. We train 5 days a week. When we have a game day, we're still training. And that's a big deal for our program, is we feel that we want to find a way to gain strength, gain speed, gain power, explosiveness during the season, not just maintain. And that's what we preach, and that's what our kids believe. And, on a Friday night or Friday during the school day, our football kids are training hard during the day, but they've gotten in that routine. Their bodies are so used to it because it's really a year-round deal, and they're able to do it, with a sense of belief that it's, this is an advantage for them.
And then you have, both for girls and boys, your Bighorn Club and the Rams Club. Can you talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, so building this class and building this program, we want to, I really want to reach out to a variety of different learners, a variety of different lifters and abilities. We can get a lot of beginners in the class and they can experience growth and they're going to be excited, their bodies experiencing change. And we want to have something for these kids that really have a passion for training and something to go after. So these clubs are things that our students have really gone nuts for. We have the Bighorn Club and we have the Ram Club. So the Ram Club that's the initial club to get into. There's some pretty neat standards they have to accomplish. The kids work really hard, to get there. And there's something for our bigger, stronger kids, guys or girls that can move a lot of weight, have a solid 1 rep max in the squat and the bench and the pull up. And also, we have, some of our kids that, aren't as massive that, the rabbits that get a chance to go after these clubs, with the body weight challenge, to see the kids working hard to go after squatting your body weight 30 times and perform 15 perfect pull-ups and then bench their body weight 50 times. That takes some time to get the body acclimated doing that. And so they go nuts for it. And it's, some kids, it takes them all the way till their senior year. It's the last week of the school year. They're just about to graduate and they go, Coach, they'll come in, they'll try it and they fail and they come back a week later because they know how important it is to get in that club. When they accomplish these standards, a neat deal is we put their name in the weight room. We put it up on this beam, this tough looking steel beam in our room. And it really means something to them. I've had kids come in and bring their parents in and, point to their name up on the wall. And I mean, that thing's going to be there, hopefully, longer than I'm alive. I think that's a neat deal that they get to come back and know that their name and their hard work is up on the wall. And then the Bighorn one, that's the big dog one. And that's one that, the crazies really have to go after, on the guy's side to go a 400-pound squat for a high school. It takes work, that takes dedication to get there. A 300-pound pull-up, you have to make your body weigh that much. So you strap weight on with a belt, throw some kettlebells on there and pull yourself up with a perfect pull-up. And then to bench 300 pounds, those are, that's a well-rounded individual, with push and pull strength and to have a balanced leg strength. That it takes a lot of work, and it's neat to see the kids accomplish that. So they get their name up on a special sign. They get t-shirts for both clubs. And we have another special thing if they get it both ways, whether we have some kids that will get it with the body weight and with the 1 rep. We'll put a ram head right next to their name up on the wall so they can say, look, I can do it both ways.
What I love about all this, especially, this is a good example of it. It doesn't have to be just the super strong people. You have these body weight challenges that allow those that just don't have the mass to be able to push that much weight, still have something to go after based on their own body weight. But I think it's a philosophy that you have with this whole program, with it being so inclusive. From the point of any athlete can be involved with this advanced training program, but really anybody can be involved with your program in terms of physical education. And as you look at how you structured this, it's this massive funnel of how do we get as many kids involved with physical activity here at our school. And as they get involved with physical activity, maybe they join athletics. And as they join athletics, maybe they join this advanced strength and conditioning program. And then even at the end of it, as they're an athlete and they're in these strength and conditioning programs, you're still enticing them to do more and achieve more with these Ram clubs, Bighorn Club. Like, it's just a nice strategy to get people engaged in what they're doing every single day at school. And the byproduct is what other wins and losses, wins at the sport level, but then also wins in the classroom because they're really trying to be excellent at everything they do. Like I just admire what your program here, and I get why you're able to produce or able to get a lot of buy-in from the students as well as the school. Now, your facility is one of the most beautiful training facilities I've ever seen at the high school level. And I'm going to pull up some pictures here. Just walk me through what it took to get to be able to produce it, but then two, the thought that went behind it and how are we going to utilize this for our needs? Because you got hundreds and hundreds of kids going through this every single hour, and it's just really, really impressive.
Yeah, in 2010 when I started, we had a pretty old school weight room. There were 7 benches in the room. It was a nasty old floor. We had the old universal pec deck, I think a pull down machine. We had a couple hip presses and these old rickety dumbbells that when the kids were doing them, I was nervous it was going to fall on their face. I'm thinking, you know what? With this community, that we can build quite the facility that a lot of people are going to be excited about. And so my strategy was to take our administration and invite them to go around the area and look at other school districts and what they had for training facilities. And they were willing to do that. I'm thankful for that. So we got in a car and we drove around to 4 to 5 different facilities within the Grand Rapids area. And our administration was in awe. I mean, I showed them pictures of what we had, and they're seeing some of these facilities going up, and we were behind. And with the number of kids that we had in our sports programs and the energy in the Rockford community, we knew that we could do better. They were excited to do better, so they were, myself presenting to the board about some of these things that we could build. I had to structure a vision of what the facility can look like, but also how many kids I felt it could reach, not just student athletes, but our general student population, along with our community. I kind of dreamt about what we could build and how we could get all those folks excited about it. And after those presentations, I was given the word that this project was going to be a go. And to really now dig into the planning phase and get with the architects and meet with athletic directors and principals. It was such a neat experience for me, to be a part of that.
What did you learn from that? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that are dreaming of facilities like this, and you got the opportunity to go through it. What are the things that you would recommend somebody do if they do have a dream for this at their school to make it happen? Because this is incredible. I mean, this is an incredible facility.
I learned that it takes time. I learned that there are a lot of different viewpoints on facility needs, and sitting through board meetings and just hearing that discussion from board members and the superintendent to the athletic director to really get an idea on how that whole process works, and for an idea to really come to fruition. I did learn a lot, but I also learned patience, because once you are given the go ahead to really start mapping this thing out, well, that was in 2011, 2012, and this initial improvement, it didn't have, we purchased some equipment that following year, but this our new weight room that we're in right now, that was from those meetings, it was about a 3-year deal. I mean, it takes time to go through the bidding process. There's just so much that was involved with it, that I would say patience for those that are have an idea, and just and while you're doing that, you still have to take care of your kids, because you got to keep those relationships with the kids while you're building. You can't just wait for something like this to be great at what you do.
Well, that's a good point, though, because some people will get into the sense of, if I had that, then we would be great. And when you don't have that.
Right. I learned from my college strength and conditioning coach, Mike Gittleson, he said, you can take a group of, driven individuals into an empty room and, win a championship by doing push-ups and sit-ups. Kids buy into a program and get excited about it and work hard. Hard work trumps everything. So when kids are excited about a program, you don't necessarily need the state of the art deal. It's the people, it's the relationships with the kids. That's what's most important. Now, when you can put both together, and then you really have something where, I guess it is easier to attract kids and community members who want to come in and train in what we have.
An overall layout, when somebody's looking at designing a new weight training facility, what were the key factors that you would recommend they look into to maximize the usage of it?
What I'm big on is having a plan and purchasing equipment that is going to last a long time. High school kids are tough on equipment, and there's a lot if you build it up, there's going to be a lot of use. And so we invested a lot into dumbbells, into our racks, into just bumper plates. I mean, when you look at it, it's, yes, we're fortunate to have the room, but there's a lot of things in that room that I'm hoping are going to be around a lot longer than I'm alive. Those dumbbells that we have were purchased in 2014 and they still look brand new. Our racks are the same racks that we had in 2014. It's 2022 and you walk into the room, it still has the same feel. The pendulum equipment, heavy machinery that just lasts and lasts and lasts. Our sleds, that steel that you can push on the turf and you can just keep pounding on it. And so everything that we purchased back in 2014, we still have. I take pride in that what we decided to invest in, we found stuff that's going to, stand through, 100 kids an hour, beating the heck out of it. That's what I would say, go after stuff that, is functional, that's going to allow for a variety of different movements and strength programming. We can use our facility and go in a variety of different ways for training. We can bring a football team in and work heavy strength. We can bring our cross country team in and, work through a variety of different lunges and sled pushes and do an endurance type of a deal with such versatile equipment. And I think that's key, is to not get locked into, the greatest or the latest fad, is to, just buy things that are going to be around for a long time.
So we've gotten to hear about the numbers and how much you've grown the programs and the amount of engagement you're getting from the student body. And then we got to see the facility and what you've been able to do to get school buy-in and have them actually support you in a big way. But you still need the individuals to operate the program every single day. If it's your dream, you'll put in as many hours as possible to make it happen. But you've been able to give this dream to everybody else involved. And what are the keys to doing that? Because it's pretty remarkable to have everybody bought in at the staff level as well.
Yeah, so we have a group of 6 high school secondary PE teachers within our district, and we really take our time together, our professional development time, when we get to meet as a staff. And what do we want our program to be about? Who do we want to reach? And how do we truly reach as many kids as possible? And the neat thing is, we all have our niches. We all have our different abilities to reach a variety of different kids. We have, myself, I grew up with an athletic background and just seemed to find it natural to establish relationships with our athletes. We had Coach O'Malley, who teaches our yoga, our female weight training. When she started her career at Rockford, she was your general PE teacher. And, that over the time, I think for her, she was willing to, take risks, and she wanted to grow. And so her shift now has gone to yoga and the female weight training, and she's doing a phenomenal job. So not only has our advanced strength and conditioning class grown, those female weightlifters are coming through, and next year we're looking at 4 sections of it. It's like, how the heck are we going to fit this many girls down here? I'm just so proud of what our staff has done and how they're reaching every kid. We have Coach Kowalski, who's initiating an outdoor fitness class. We're blessed in the Rockford area to have, we have lakes and streams and a ski resort and a lot of hiking trails, mountain biking. And so within this Rockford community, it's like, holy smokes, how can we get these kids excited about that? So boom, he has a dream, he has a vision. He's fundraising right now for this outdoor fitness class, and that thing is going to take off. I'm confident. It's just like every other class, because his heart is in the right spot, and he wants to give something. Maybe it's not the most athletic kid, but he wants these kids to get into archery. He wants to get into hiking, to biking, and it's really amazing to see his relationships with his students. They're strong and they're all different, but they're all very impactful, and it's what's drawing so many kids to our program.
It looks like you guys have something very special happening there at Rockford, where people are building the engagement of athletics, where in some places across the country it's declining. And so it's a very special story to get to shine a light on. For anybody that's trying to do this in other schools, what would you recommend they do first?
It goes back to having a following and being, you have to be someone that's energetic and, just has a passion for reaching at the high school level, of reaching a variety of different, learners. And, you have to formulate a team. It's very difficult to do it, by yourself. If it's at some schools, it might be a team of, 6 like we have. It might be 2. But what's important is that, you're able to look at each other's strengths and find out, okay, how can we do this as a team? And so, that just shows that type of collaboration is what, school systems want. They want that, they want their math department to work together to, just build a rock solid program for those kids and throughout the entire school. So it's, I think first is, getting your team ready to go to figure out how you can be energetic and go after, I guess your vision and your dream and building your program and getting kids excited about it. You have to attract kids. And that's a part of, I talk to younger teachers as they get into it. There is a part of business and a little bit of sales when you're an elective type of a teacher. You have to get kids to want to, come down and be a part of your program. That's your job security, right? So if, I had 10 kids a trimester wanting to sign up for advanced strength and conditioning, guess what? We're not, I'm only teaching part-time. If Miss O'Malley, has 1 or 2 kids that are interested in yoga and she's not able to draw those kids in. She hasn't established relationships. She doesn't, that yoga class isn't going to exist. It's going to come in, it's going to trickle out after a year. So, the big thing is just being someone that is just has your heart in the right spot, wants to establish relationships with your students, is able to gain trust because of your work ethic with administration. Those are things that are really going to get the ball rolling.
And ultimately get the opportunity to train your football athletes year round, which is, it's funny how we started there with the conversation. Mm-hmm. We talked about it for 5 minutes, but you realize that the most of that comes from all of the rest of the interview and everything we talked about the program and the work that went into building it and then being able to share it with the staff that you have. I mean, I think that's kind of the indirect thing of like, well, we want to win more games. We need to train more. Well, how do we train more?
Yep.
It's all this other stuff that goes into it.
Yeah, it's all encompassing. That's what high school's all about. And, extracurriculars and, kids get involved with the band and with different sports. And we want I want my football players playing as many sports as they can. I'd love for them to play all 3 seasons. And so just that genuine interest in the overall experience comes back, like you mentioned. Okay, now what you just said is, I get to see my football kids throughout the entire year, and I get to see them every single school day, which, you get so in tune with everything that's going on with your players when you can set that up.
Well, Brent, I appreciate you sharing the story with us and loved all the visuals that you provided. That was really helpful to paint a picture for what you're doing there. And it's a special story that you guys have. Wish you the best of luck this off season and then into next season.
Great. Thanks, Pat. I appreciate it and appreciate you, spreading the word.